Let's be honest, for a lot of us, that first cup of morning coffee isn't a mindful experience. It's a frantic rescue mission. We're on autopilot, just desperately trying to wake up. But in this explainer, we're going to completely transform your relationship with your morning brew. We'll explore how you can turn that exact same cup into a neuroscience-backed, nervous system-regulating daily ritual. By blending the hidden neurobiology of your brain with ancient cultural wisdom and modern habit stacking, we're going to help you reclaim your morning focus. To understand why this shift is absolutely crucial, take a look at this. Harvard researchers found that we spend an astonishing 47% of our waking lives completely checked out, not paying attention to what we're actually doing. Think about that, almost half our lives. And if you're a driven, stressed out adult, there's a good chance that disconnected autopilot starts the literal second you stumble out of bed, grab your phone, and blindly hit brew on the coffee machine. Section 1. The Morning Autopilot Trap, a symptom of a dysregulated nervous system. You know that mid-morning anxiety, the scattered focus, and that dreaded energy crash? Well, it turns out that's not necessarily the coffee's fault. It's the result of a dysregulated routine. When we use coffee purely as fuel while our minds are already racing through a massive to-do list, we trigger a chain reaction in our nervous system that pretty much guarantees burnout. Compare a rushed, distracted morning filled with scrolling and cortisol spikes against a mindful ritual that actually invites present awareness. One leads to severe crashes. The other gives you deep nervous system regulation and smooth, sustained cognitive energy. The physical act of drinking coffee is exactly the same, but the quality of your attention, that completely rewires the outcome. Section 2. The Neuroscience of Wakefulness, exploring the cinematic biomechanics of your morning brain. To really grasp why that autopilot state is so exhausting, we need to zoom in on the biomechanics happening inside your body the exact moment your eyes open. It kicks off with a beautifully orchestrated chemical symphony designed to wake you up completely naturally, long before that first drop of coffee even touches your lips. This is called the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol is your primary alertness hormone, and it naturally revs up before you wake, peaking about 30 to 45 minutes after you open your eyes. It's your body's built-in way of prepping you for the day's energy demands. So here's the catch. If you down a cup of coffee immediately upon waking, that caffeine artificially floods your central nervous system while your natural alertness signals are already maxed out. You're effectively blunting your body's innate ability to wake itself up. And then we have the other side of the equation, adenosine. This is a critical little molecule that progressively builds up in your brain the entire time you're awake. When it binds to its receptors, it tells your body, hey, it's time to sleep. Now, caffeine is a sneaky competitive adenosine antagonist. That's a fancy way of saying it temporarily blocks those receptors so you don't feel tired. But if you drink coffee at minute 0, right when you wake up and your adenosine levels are at rock bottom, you're prematurely blocking those empty receptors. So what happens? The adenosine just builds up behind the blockade and absolutely floods your brain the exact second the caffeine wears off. Which brings us to a massive science-backed lifestyle hack. Delaying your caffeine intake by just 60 to 90 minutes after waking is an absolute game changer. By holding off, you allow that natural cortisol peak to do its job and then naturally subside, while giving adenosine a chance to rise just a tiny bit. This gives the caffeine a solid chemical baseline to work with. The results? Incredibly smooth, sustained energy without that brutal, devastating cognitive crash hitting you at 11 a.m. Section 3. The Ancient Coffee Blueprint, focusing on the Ethiopian Buna ceremony. You know, long before modern neuroscience could measure things like cortisol and adenosine, traditional cultures intuitively understood the deep power of slowing down. Take Ethiopia, the birthplace of coffee. Their Buna ceremony is incredibly intentional. It's an hours-long process led by the female head of the household, unfolding in 3 highly symbolic stages. First is Ubul, the strongest serving, which represents awakening and deep respect. Second is Tona, a moderately diluted round acting as a safe platform for dialogue and conflict resolution. And finally, Baraka, the most diluted extraction representing peace and spiritual blessings. This entire sequence intentionally forces everyone to slow down and use sensory anchors, like the rich smell of roasting beans and the rhythmic sound of grinding, to regulate their emotions and truly connect. As this quote beautifully captures, sharing the same sensory experience fosters synchrony, which dramatically enhances bonding. The coffee ceremony literally becomes a living neuropsychological practice. This unhurried shared sensory experience actively triggers what psychologists call group physiological synchrony. By sharing the same physical space, the warm aromas, and the exact same pacing, it sparks the release of oxytocin, That's the hormone absolutely central to building profound social trust and easing trauma. It takes a simple morning beverage and transforms it into real community healing. Section 4. The sensory anchoring method, rewiring your gut-brain axis. Okay, realistically, most of us don't have 3 hours for a gorgeous ceremony every morning. But we can absolutely still optimize our own gut-brain connection just by shifting how we consume our daily cup. The crazy thing is, the ritual itself is so powerful that your brain responds to it even without the stimulant. Research shows both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee trigger highly beneficial shifts in your gut microbiome. Both activate dopamine anticipation pathways in the brain. Just the anticipation, the smell, the warmth, the familiar routine can actually shorten your reaction times and enhance cognitive performance purely through a learned placebo response. It proves the mindful ritual itself holds massive psychological power, completely independent of the caffeine. So how do we actually tap into this? We use the 5 senses mindfulness framework. Before you even take your first sip, try intentionally routing your attention through your sensory pathways. Visually observe the steam rising and the deep, rich colors. Take a deep nasal inhalation to detect those complex roasted notes. Feel the radiant warmth and the grounding weight of the mug in your hands. Listen to the rhythmic sounds of the brewing process. And finally, when you do taste it, hold the liquid on your tongue for just a second. This simple anchoring technique actively interrupts anxious rumination, initiates a wave of systemic calm, and heavily stimulates your vagus nerve. Section 5. Engineering your neural reset. Actionable habit stacking for longevity. Let's translate this premium neuroscience into some highly actionable protocols you can use literally tomorrow morning. This is all about building a foundation for longevity and emotional resilience through super low stakes, manageable actions. Our first technique is the Sip and Savor 60 protocol. It takes less than 2 minutes. You just pair your existing coffee habit with intentional vagal nerve stimulation to instantly clear brain fog. First, inhale for 4 seconds, then exhale for 6. Try humming on the exhale to further stimulate that vagus nerve. Next, take a slow sip and orient yourself to the present by visually identifying one color, one sound, and one emotion you're currently feeling. Finally, state aloud, "I am glad for," to anchor your mind in external appreciation. It's a rapid micro-mindfulness reset that works wonders. Alternatively, if you're looking to deeply optimize your sleep-wake cycles, try the Luz plus Latte framework. This beautifully aligns your circadian rhythm by exposing your eyes to natural early morning daylight. Simply stand directly facing a window, take 3 deep, slow diaphragmatic breaths, and project your gaze to the furthest visible object on the horizon, which deeply relaxes your eye muscles. Then, come up with 5 descriptive words for your environment. You're consciously appreciating the serene world outside while letting your biology wake up exactly as nature intended. And if all this sounds incredibly simple, remember that it is also deeply effective. As neuroscientist Dr. Richard Davidson points out, well-being is fundamentally no different than learning to play the cello. If you practice it, you will get better at it. Mental clarity and emotional resilience are highly trainable skills. By practicing these daily, low-stakes coffee rituals, you are actively fortifying the neural pathways associated with emotional regulation. You're literally training your brain to be present, resilient, and totally calm. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and reach for that cup, ask yourself, are you drinking your coffee, or is your coffee drinking you? Are you running on autopilot, or are you stepping into the driver's seat? Choose to delay that cup for 90 minutes. Choose to engage your senses. Choose to make those first few minutes of your day a sacred, empowering space of genuine presence. You absolutely have the power to turn a simple, everyday habit into a masterpiece of mental clarity. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.